It's time for some Re-Flexion. Hey everyone, welcome to yet another bonus episode from M's Books and Cats podcast. This one is only going to occasionally touch on books and cats. I have other interests, one of which is health, both physical and mental, really just everything that kind of makes up like good health as a human being. So this is not a show for advice. Please don't listen to me. I am not a medical professional. Everything I'm going to talk about is just my own personal experience and my own thoughts. And everyone is different. Everyone's body is different. Everyone's needs are different. Please don't take anything I say as something that you should do. I've done lots of things that you should not do. That's really kind of how my history goes. Anyway, I am calling this series Re-Flexion, spelling flexion with an X, like spinal flexion. I'm such a nerd. Anyway, so like I said, I've spent my whole life experimenting, and currently I am focused on yoga and meditation. I really need some grounding, like bad. I don't know that I've ever had grounding. And I'm also taking a 200-hour yoga teacher certification. I'll probably end up sharing bits and pieces of that as I go. I'm super excited. I love yoga, and I've been practicing kind of off and on since I was 13, so quite a long time. And the more I learn, the more I want to know, you know? And I'm excited about studying something new, too. This course starts in the ancient roots of yoga, and I'm already feeling a little bit out of my depth, but I'm also just super interested. I love this. It's fascinating. I love learning new things. So, episode 1. Where am I at right now? Well, I am trying to work on my mind-body connection. I don't know why it is so difficult for me to consistently practice yoga or meditate. I know that when I do these things regularly, like, I feel fantastic. I know how good it is for me. But I am just the master of self-sabotage. If I can mess it up for myself, I will. But luckily, I can always start over, and I am just kind of starting over everything right now, again. When we moved into the studio, I decided that I was going to set a goal that every time when I first came to the studio, I was going to do yoga and meditate. And that way I would be in a really good headspace for working, and it would make me be consistent. And there's tons of space in the studio. Like, I'm probably going to end up having some yoga classes in there because you can probably have a good, like, 8-person class, which is a great size. Anyway, I brought my mat and everything in, and I did really well for 3 days. And I was feeling incredible. I had been feeling so stiff and uncomfortable for quite a while. I hadn't really been doing much at all. But I just didn't think that it was, like, the fact that I wasn't moving my muscles. But 3 days of yoga turned it around completely. I felt like, I don't know, my head and my shoulders were separate, first of all. That was kind of cool. Anyway, so after 3 days, I get called about going in for a very minor surgery, but it was last minute, and I had to go in the next day. And that surgery has a 2-week recovery period. Yay. In the past, I have not really adhered to recovery things, but I really try to actually do that now because I understand that the body needs time to heal, and you can't just, like, force it back into action. It's not good for it. And I'm older, so, you know, I feel more of it now, too. So the last 2 weeks have been kind of rough. I have been walking and running because that is how I keep my sanity. That is an almost daily thing. But the yoga I couldn't do. And meditation, I did do some, but it was kind of hit or miss. I have a much easier time going straight into meditation after I've done yoga. I'm in the right headspace, and it's just like, well, let's just continue this because it's so relaxing and nice. It's a lot harder for some reason for me to just sit down and meditate. So tomorrow is the end of the 2-week healing period, and I have restarted the 30-day yoga challenge that I had started before. I just decided to do it over. And I am currently on day 3, again, feeling good. And I'm pretty much healed, so we should be good to go at this point. I'm looking forward to the rest of it. I love it. I just love how I feel when I am doing yoga and meditating. Go figure. So I guess currently I'm just really working on my peace. I always am lately. My life up until very recently was just complete chaos. And somehow I managed to keep that under control for a really long time, but that's not a relaxing existence. And it's also really hard to learn how to relax after living that existence for so long. You wouldn't think it'd be so hard to do these positive self-care things, but it is. I'm also looking for more than just relaxation. I'm looking for a deeper peace. Inner peace, I guess. It sounds cheesy, but I really do feel it in my gut. When I'm feeling really peaceful or when I'm feeling anxious, I feel it all in my gut. So inner peace makes sense. So for meditations right now, I'm really digging this YouTuber called Lavender. I've used her videos off and on for a while now. I'm a big fan. I think some of the meditation videos get a little, I don't know, they get a little wild with the background music and stuff sometimes. Hers is really, really mellow. It's barely there. And then her voice is super soothing. It's really light. There are certain voices that I just can't. I'll start a meditation and then I'm 2 minutes in and I just can't do it. I just can't listen to it. But I do enjoy guided meditation because sometimes my brain can be all over the place and I have a really hard time reining it in. And sometimes that can be fun to just kind of see where your brain goes. But sometimes if you want to relax, it helps to, have somebody talking you through it. It gives you something to focus on, But yeah, Lavender on YouTube, she's fantastic. Definitely check out her channel. So I want to end my first reflection with a pose of the week, and then, of course, a quote. I adore quotes. If you've listened to the main podcast, you already know that. But yeah, I love a good quote. And I love a yoga pose. So I figure, why not have a pose of the week and a quote of the week? And in true M character, it's not one pose this week, but two, because I can never choose just one. This kind of came to me, though, while I was doing yoga today. I had started really thinking about this episode, and I hadn't picked my poses yet. And the first one I want to talk about is mountain pose. Because mountain pose is just the most fantastic pose in the entire world. You just stand up nice and tall like you're a mountain, and you can either put your hands together at your heart center, or you can hold them palms facing out at your sides, which is my favorite because you kind of just feel like a mountain. Like a kid would draw a mountain, like a big triangle. That's kind of what you feel like. And you can just feel the energy. It's a very powerful position. And it's also super relaxing, but also energizing at the same time. So yeah, mountain pose, my favorite pose. Even over Savasana, just laying down. And then the other one I want to talk about this week, and this is the reason I'm picking two this week, really, is Plow pose. Now, I used to teach yoga well over a decade ago. Another lifetime ago is what it really feels like at this point. I am not that person anymore. Physically, mentally, any of it. But I loved teaching yoga a lot. That's why I want to go back to it. And I loved Plow pose because it's a hard pose, but if you can do it, it feels fantastic. And it's so good for your back. But it's hard. You have to basically roll, you're on your back and then you roll your legs up over you and all the way so that the toes are touching behind your head. It's super difficult. I used to be able to do it. I loved it. So then I took a big break from yoga. I took a big break from all healthy habits. I could blame quarantine, but I was well on my way there before quarantine happened. So it was both. It was both my own choice and quarantine. So I didn't do yoga for a long time. I ate very poorly. I was running. That's the one thing I did during quarantine because, again, sanity. But I was out of shape. I was not flexible, which honestly, probably the first time in my life that I have not been flexible. I have hypermobile joints and flexibility's never been a problem. So it was really weird. It was really weird to not be flexible. And I knew that was not good for normal people and extra not good for me knowing how flexible I normally am. Anyway, when I first started kind of dipping my toes back into yoga, because I always come back to yoga, I was messing around, just kind of doing some of my favorite poses for a while. Because that's kind of how I get back into anything, is just do the fun stuff that I really enjoy. Remind myself why I like it so much, you know? And I tried to do plow pose, and it was awful. And I don't mean awful like you are where you are, but like I wasn't where I used to be. And I can remember how easy it was. And that's not the easiest thing to deal with all the time. So that was disappointing. And I tried again today. It didn't work. I got a little closer. I am more flexible already just from restarting this challenge. But yeah, I still can't get there. So the plow pose, I've decided, is kind of a goal. I don't want to have a ton of goals at the moment. I'm really trying to not put pressure on myself, except to always be working toward my goals. But I wanted a yoga goal, and I think plow pose is perfect because I love it. It makes me sad that I can't do it, and I know I can get back to it. So yeah, I'll tell you when I get plow pose again. I'll probably tell you about my attempts too. So this week's poses of the week: mountain pose, my absolute favorite; plow pose, the one I can't do anymore. It is what it is. So finally, I want to end with a quote. Like I said, I adore quotes. There's a quote for everything, you know? And this one I heard on a Lavendare video recently. And I've heard this quote many times before in kind of different wording. And I really love it. And it's kind of, I would say that it's one of the ideas that first got me back on my feet and starting to heal after my own personal rock bottom, you know? So the one that was on the video was from the poet Rumi, and the quote is, "The wound is where the light enters you." And I love that so much. I think the first time I heard it was in a Leonard Cohen song, maybe, and it was worded differently. But I love that idea that that's how you grow. You take your wounds and you heal them and you learn and you grow and you're better for it. It's a very uplifting thought. And it definitely got me back on my feet. Anyway, that is it for my first reflection. Let me know what you guys think. Do you meditate? Do you love yoga? Do you have an embarrassing yoga class story? Because I think we all do. And I'm sure those will come up during this bonus series from M's Books and Cats podcast. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you find some moments of peace this week, and I'll see you next time.
A Frap Media production.